The one thing that the kids would really, really talk about were graphics.
It's just like if you were in the game, it just sucks you right in, you know?
I just really like how it's real 3D, real interactive, and the graphics are amazing. Not like most other games I've played at all. Sega, Genesis, and Super Nintendo.
The next thing you know, they own the market. They had a good system, they priced it aggressively, they were the ones who remembered that you were supposed to be giving away razors to sell the blades.
The blades in this case being the games themselves. That's where console makers make their real money.
The guy who controls the proprietary format is the toll keeper. Everybody's got to pay him money to put their product on his machines. It's a licensing business. And if you become the king of the hill, everybody has to salute you. And they have to salute you by writing a check.
PlayStation.
All those checks made Sony's revenge not only sweet, but profitable. Debuting in 1995, PlayStation became the world's best-selling game console and was soon generating 40% of Sony Electronics' annual revenues. With Sony the new king of the hill, Nintendo and Sega became pretenders to the throne, reduced to a distant second and third place. By then, Sony's plans for a next-generation PlayStation, the PlayStation 2, had awakened the gaming instincts of another technology giant, Microsoft.
Sony was saying, look, this is going to replace the PC. It's going to replace the DVD player. It's going to be the anchor of your home entertainment experience and can go beyond that as well.
Replacing the PC was not what the leading computer software maker in the world wanted to hear, especially since PlayStation was outselling the top 5 PC makers combined.
The growth of the PlayStation business outpaces the overall industry growth.
The sort of messaging Sony did around PlayStation 2 certainly catalyzed a lot of kind of competitive spirit amongst people at Microsoft who really, didn't particularly enjoy Sony saying that a game console was going to replace Excel, for instance, or Word for Windows.
What Bill Gates at some point said was, hey, look, there's a living room. That's one room in the house we haven't broken into yet.
Just 1 week after Sony released PlayStation 2 in the spring of 2000, Bill Gates broke in.
Well, here it is, the first time it's been seen in public.
Microsoft would be making its own game machine, the Xbox.
Hey, you guys want coffee and donuts?
Its premiere in November 2001 at Toys R Us in Times Square gave New York City one of its first moments of fun after the tragedy of 9/11, with Gates himself on hand to sell the very first one. Over the next 4 years, Microsoft would sell an additional 20 million Xboxes, thanks in large part to one game, Halo.
When it seems like all is lost.
It's RoboCop with the Colonial Marines from the Aliens movie fighting the Predators on Larry Niven's Ringworld. Oh, no, wait, and then zombies. That's ridiculous. But the game, that's what you always wanted to play. You want to be RoboCop in that situation.
Xbox! Xbox!
While Halo put Xbox ahead of Nintendo's GameCube in consoles, it still couldn't push Sony off its throne. Since introducing Xbox and its successor Xbox 360, Microsoft has lost $4 billion in its attempt to enter the living room.
It doesn't matter to Microsoft that the Xbox division lost money every single quarter, 4 quarters a year for 4 years. Didn't matter. They were pleased because of the way they saw it. They walked into a market where no one took them seriously. And the next thing you know, they were a player.
That was in the console market. In the handheld market, the king of the hill remained Nintendo with its introduction of the DS system in 2004.
The simplicity is in the interface. It's a pen. Everybody knows how to use a pen. My 3-and-a-half-year-old boy knows how to use a pen.
User-friendly also became Nintendo's strategy for regaining a larger piece of the console market in 2006 with its Wii system.
Nintendo said, okay, we're going up against Sony and Microsoft here. Let's not try and do what they do well. Let's try and do what we do well, which is to make really great, really complete experiences with style and that people want to play.
And so the game behind the games continues. After much delay, Sony announced it was finally ready to release PlayStation 3.
The most interesting thing about the video game business is that each 4 or 5 years there's a new hardware system, so there's a complete reshuffling of the deck. Market shares don't change by a couple of percentage points, they change by 20 or 30 or 40% every 5 years.
It's a horse race. People have their favorite horse, you know what I mean? A lot of people have a dog in the fight. A lot of people are going to make a lot of money, and a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money.
As in the pioneer days of Atari and television and Coleco, one fact remains true. A game machine is only as good as the games created for it.
Next, behind the scenes at the world's largest game publisher.
So these are some bird tweets. Ball going in the cup.
How'd they do that? We'll show you next as Game On continues. Now, back to Game On, the unauthorized history of video games.
It looks like a college campus a week after finals, but don't let the laid-back, chilled-out setting fool you. This is headquarters of the NFL.
Launches it deep to the left.
The Mafia. And Bond.
Who are you?
The name is Bond. James Bond.
Well, at least they're virtual counterparts.
All right, that's fixed.
That's right?
Yeah.
Welcome to Electronic Arts, the world's largest video game publisher. Creating fantasies here is all about making them seem as real life.
You take the two-dimensional map and add that on, and you get your VJ.
In EA's Tiger Woods PGA Pro Tour, it's par for the course.
Callaway clubs or Cobra drivers or Nike putters, you're able to actually pick those brands up, put them on your golfer, and so not only does your golfer look how you want him to look, he's playing with the equipment that you're used to playing, and it really makes you feel like you're in the game.
I think it's a 7-iron.
If God is in the details, then heaven might look something like EA.
We come up with a list of sounds that we think we're going to need, and then we set about going out and recording these things. Right now, I've selected Scottish birds, because this is a Scottish course, and so these are some bird tweets. The flag flapping, ball going in the cup. And that's the big payoff right there.
For their James Bond title, From Russia with Love, EA spared no expense to get the right guy to play 007, Sean Connery himself.
May I help you? A dry martini. Shaken, not stout.
We had some lines in there that were a little bit more modern, and he'd say, I don't even know this line. So, you know, he dialed us into the 60s. He dialed us into Bond. We could have made the game, but it wouldn't have been near as good.
Speed.
Bringing Hollywood showmanship to video games has been part of EA's style since the very beginning.
That was a complete bomb. They were really desperate.
That's not just any gamer traveling down memory lane. That is Trip Hawkins, the founder of Electronic Arts. Even as a kid in the pre-Pong years, Hawkins was a game player.
I'd want to play games with my friends, but they would want to watch television. And when I first heard about computers, I thought, aha, if we put the game in the computer, we can actually make it look and feel like television, but then it'll be a truly interactive experience where you're really there and you're part of the action.
The only problem was it was the 1970s, and Hawkins had to wait until computers caught up with his ideas for them.
And I thought, okay, well, how many years is it going to take before there's enough computers in the home that I can make the games that I want to make? And I decided that if I waited until 1982, that would be long enough. And that was 7 years away.
He used the time wisely, working as director of product marketing at a new company called Apple. Hawkins carefully observed everything, especially the software designers.
These guys are very ingenious prima donnas, pretty much just like the divas that run around Hollywood. So why not have a company that's really themed around doing a better job of taking care of them and nurturing them, and in fact kind of making them into brands.
That's exactly what he did when he left Apple to start EA. Inspired by the music business, Hawkins packaged his designers' games with covers that looked like record albums. They sold well, but the star power of game designers never shined as bright as, say, Mick Jagger's. Hawkins thought, why not get a real celebrity to star in a game? And what celebrities could be bigger than pro athletes?
And I thought we could do one-on-one basketball, and we can draw 2 basketball players. And then it was just obvious to me immediately it had to be Dr. J and Larry Bird.
Released in 1983, Dr. J and Larry Bird Go One-on-One was a smash. But what Hawkins really wanted was a full team sport, a football game featuring coach and commentator John Madden. But at the time, having 11 players on each team like a real game was technically impossible. Hawkins, however, wouldn't give up on the idea.
It took 4 years, and it became known in the company as Tripp's Folly. And at one point, the auditors had to come personally to see me to explain that, I'm sorry, but we have to write this off because it's obviously not an asset. It's obviously just an expense that you are never going to recoup.
He's laughing because Tripp's Folly helped make EA the first third-party software publisher to earn $1 billion a year. With a new edition released annually, John Madden's NFL has remained at the top of the video game bestseller charts. Becoming the MVP of software, Hawkins turned his attention to hardware with his next big idea. He spearheaded the move in the mid-90s to create a standard for video game systems.
So let's get rid of all this Nintendo and Sony and incompatibility. Let's create one single standard. It'll be called the 3DO standard.
With Hawkins licensing the hardware technology to Panasonic, the 3DO console made its debut in 1993.
And it was fantastic. Amazing 3D graphics, stuff you're not going to get for another couple years till the original PlayStation comes around. But nobody wants it.
Part of the problem was the price. At $700, the 3DO was the most expensive game console ever.
We were just hoping that because of all the other features that it had, it would look really more like a hi-fi purchase or a TV or a VCR. So that was one of the lessons learned, is that nope, it's going to be viewed as a game system, it's going to be judged as a game system, and it's too expensive for a game system, even with all the whizzy new capabilities.
Trip Hawkins wasn't able to get everyone to agree on one console for all, but the industry did set a standard for working conditions. And that wasn't necessarily a good thing.
It's somewhat inevitable that at the end of a project, people end up coming in on weekends, working late hours.
We have a very flexible work environment, and if you're a new Wild Tangent employee, we tell you you can work any 80 hours a week you like.
I lived away from home for almost 3 months, helping get the game done in the final crunch stage. So I didn't see my friends, my family for a while.